Are you listening? Damn.
Welcome into the Rantings of Fantasy Football Fanatic. I am your host, Jesse Moeller, aka J Bowler 05, and boy, oh boy, what a doozy day 2 was. I don't even know what to describe it. I'm a day past it, and I'm still pretty shook with wondering what happened. We had 25 fantasy relevant players, so 25. So we could break it down by position. We had 2 quarterbacks, Will Levis, Hendon Hooker. We had 5 running backs. We had Zach Charbonnet going to Seattle, Kendre Miller going to New Orleans, Tajay Spears going to Tennessee, Devin Achane, whoa, baby, in Miami, Tanks Bigsby in Jacksonville. We had 10 wide receivers, which is a good amount of wide receivers. So we've had 14 wide receivers go through the first 2 days. But to break down the wide receivers, we had Jonathan Mingo landed in Carolina, Jaden Reed landed in Green Bay, Rashee Rice in Kansas City. I know he's going to get steamed up. And Marvin Mims in Denver. And then round 3, we had Tank Dell in Houston, Jalen Hyatt in New York, Cedric Tillman in Cleveland, Josh Downs in Indianapolis. Hey, that's a nice one. Michael Wilson in Arizona. That's a sleeper pick for y'all paying attention. And Trey Tucker in Vegas. Lastly, the tight ends, we had 8. We had 8 tight ends go. So we've had 9 tight ends go the first 2 days. That's bonkers, which speaks to the tight end class. I think it was Rappaport that said there were 11 tight ends with day 2 grade. We almost hit that. We had freaking 11 go. So the ones that went on day 2, Sam Laporta went to Detroit. Michael Mayer went down to Vegas. Luke Musgrave went to Green Bay. Luke Schoonmaker went to Dallas. Brendan Strange went to Jacksonville. Tucker Kraft, Green Bay. Another Green Bay guy. I don't know why you guys are double dipping on tight ends, but that's another point. Darnell Washington, Pittsburgh. Rest in peace, Darnell. Not going to happen there, but that's a good fun one. And Cameron Latu went to San Francisco. So that is just a ton of guys going. And if you look at the Twitter streets, people are absolutely freaking out, and I don't understand why. Let me kind of break down what I expect from the class and looking forward, and we can just go down by position. But realistically, like, we don't have a ton of immediate impact guys. And guess what? They're day 2 players. They don't make immediate impacts anyways. But it just seems like there's log jams and a tough situation. And this even applies to the day 1 wide receivers where everyone was like, oh my God, horror. It's like, nah, dude. Like, KJ Osborne and TJ Hawkinson are not going to stop Jordan Addison. Y'all need to chill. Like, relax. Quentin Johnson, he's upgraded Mike Williams. Like, Mike Williams is a good wide receiver, but he's nothing special. So yeah, but that was already talking about day 1. Let's jump to day 2 and go there. So one of the big movers, Will Levis, finally went. Looks like he's the heir apparent in Tennessee. And I know you're like, day 2, it's early day 2. That's an investment. There are invested. So he's going to be either a back end round 1 or an early round 2 pick in super flex leagues. And realistically, I'm fine throwing the dart on Levis at that cost. Like, the upside's worth it. It might seem pretty bad because he's got to sit from Tannehill for a year, but if things go south in Tennessee this year, we could see Levis take over, right? So keep that in mind. Levis is very interesting. Hendon Hooker went in the 3rd round to Detroit, and that's the perfect just let him sit and learn behind Jared Goff pick. So if you're Detroit, it's like, why not, right? Yeah. So we'll look at him next year, maybe the year after that. It's 3rd round pick, so I wouldn't be too thrilled with Hooker, but you could throw a dart on him late second in the 3rd round if you really believe in him and hope it pays off. But yeah, it helps the class at least. I'm not too sold on Hooker falling in Detroit. It's a great situation, but is he going to beat out Jared Goff? Like, realistically, I don't know. So that's the thing you have to ask yourself. Like, I know people were hyped on him, but we'll see. But let's talk about the meat of the class, the thing that was holding it all together, the running backs, and how they quote unquote face planted. It's like, oh no. But the thing that really sucks is Charbonnet. That one's just a doozy because Walker's a good running back and he's young. So that's the problem with it, right? We're not just being like, oh yeah, he's stuck behind Derrick Henry, aka Tajay Spears of Tennessee, which we'll talk about in a second. But yeah, it just it's fascinating. The thing that if you kind of zoom out and look at it, it's not bad. Like, both guys will be able to succeed because they're different running backs. Charbonnet is a much better back on 3rd downs. He's a good pass protector. He's a better route runner. He can do all that. And he's a sound running back where he's not going to make the mistakes that Walker does, because we saw Walker had one of the lowest success rates among running backs with 100 plus carries last year. he's an explosive ass running back. Like that's not Zach Charbonnet. Charbonnet kind of builds up and then he gets going. But Charbonnet is a very dependable running back, and that's something Seattle's going to count on because outside of Walker, that running back room was a disaster. So you knew they were going to add someone. I just don't think anyone expected round 2. Like I would much rather have taken one of the guys that went round 3, but I completely get why Seattle did it. We even saw Pete Carroll on the phone call with him that they released talking about, hey, you ready to play on special teams? And I'm just like, dude, you spent a second round pick on this guy. Why are you talking about special teams? But that's Pete Carroll with his, quote unquote competing attitude. The next guy that went of the running backs is Kendre Miller. And that's an interesting one because Kendry's a good running back. And people are like, yeah, he didn't catch passes. Well, is he capable of it? I mean, his yards per route run isn't terrible. And he showed an ability to actually, when he got the ball. So I know we didn't get Roschon on day 2, which sucks. I thought he would land somewhere. But Kendre fell into a good situation in New Orleans. We don't know what is going to happen with Kamara. Like he could end up being cut realistically. You just don't know. He's going to be suspended. So Kendre is going to have an impact year 1. Like he's going to get on the field. He's going to make plays. And they do have Jamal Williams, but like Jamal Williams is just like, he's a guy. Like he's a locker room dude. And he's great for character, but he's not that good of a running back. So I don't think Jamal Williams is going to stop Kendre Miller. Kendre Miller is a better running back. Like he's an upgrade. It's just more what happens with Kamara. And if the Kamara suspension is long term, it's wheels up for Kendre. It's a good situation to build in. Like you have the core around. Like you have Derek Carr for a while. You have the receivers in position. You have an iffy tight end. So there's room for him to carve out a role. I actually like it. So keep that in mind. Kendre is going to be a probably second round pick, early to mid, like 202-ish range, I would imagine. I haven't finalized my rankings, but that's kind of where I picture him going. The next guy is interesting, and it's Tajay Spears. I saw a picture of the old Deion Lewis, Derrick Henry, and that's basically what Tajay Spears is bigger than Deion Lewis, but he's still a small back. The issue with Tajay Spears is he doesn't have he legit doesn't have an ACL ligament in one of his knees. He has the injury history, so he's not a long-term asset, right? But he's explosive. He's fantastic in space. Tennessee needed playmakers, and that is Spears. Spears is the definition of a playmaker. So he's going to help out Derrick Henry in year 1. Who knows? Maybe they trade Derrick Henry and it's wheels up for Spears. But realistically, they're going to try to find ways to get him on the field to help out that offense because they don't have a ton of playmakers, right? So it's just it's going to be interesting to see. I'm kind of excited, but a little bit reserved just because he's round 3 and there's an established bell cow in front of him and Derrick Henry. He's not going to take away the running work from Derrick Henry. But maybe they just lessen it a little bit. Let Spears get on the field, show you what he's got. He could be a 2024 boom pick. So keep that in mind. Spears will probably be a mid to late second round pick. And if you want him, go for it. Now, the landing spot bonanza happened with Devin Achane. He got round day 2 draft capital, baby. We are rolling. And guess what? That's Miami. That's the perfect fit. Achane is a really good running back. He's undersized, but the man could ball. You saw his efficiency numbers. He's that dude. He's good, man. He does everything you need from a running back. He's just small. If he was big, people would absolutely be loving all over him. But he's got Olympic speed. He's a playmaker. He's actually surprisingly strong running back. He finishes forward. He does all the stuff. And he's one of the better inside runners in the league. So I know you're thinking, oh, they can't run in the middle. No, they will. And he'll do it. I wouldn't be worried about any of, the guys they have there, like Jeff Wilson, anything like that. Nah, it's Devin Achane. He's going to be, I think I have him at 110 right now in my rookie rankings based on this. It's just like James Cook last year, except he's a better running back than James Cook, where James Cook got completely elevated. And he's a smaller back, part-time role. Devin Achane was in a part-time role, but he finally took over. And he was good last year with Texas A&M. So that's an interesting one. And I'm pretty excited. That's literally the nuts landing spot. I don't think you could ask for anything more than that. The last guy of the running backs that went day 2 was Tank Bigsby. He went to Jacksonville. Jacksonville, just like Seattle, they desperately needed a running back. You're not running out JaMychal Hasty, any one of those guys, right? So they needed a body. And it'll be interesting to see if ETN finally gets that passing game work. I saw people saying that Bigsby's the better running back than ETN, which is just people hold on, Tank Lock. So ETN went first round, Bigsby went third. Like ETN is a much better profile. He's a better like it's just Bigsby's not better than ETN, but he can carve out a decent role. Like we saw how Jacksonville used ETN. He wasn't heavily involved in the passing game. Like he had very similar usage rates to Kenneth Walker in the passing game, which didn't make any sense, but he's a good back. So I'm not sure how that's going to play out. Like Bigsby is going to be the 1B to ETN's the 1A in that offense. I don't think he's really going to push ETN, but he's a fun handcuff guy. And if he gets hurt, if ETN gets hurt, wheels up for Bigsby in that offense because that's one of the better offenses in the league in Jacksonville. So keep that in mind with Bigsby. He's probably going to be a mid-second, but I'm going to more have him as like a later second just because I'd rather bet on some of the wide receivers than Bigsby being behind ETN. But if you're thrilled with Bigsby, go ahead and move him up to early second and take the dart on him if you like him. If you're not sold on ETN, which for some reason a lot of people aren't. So keep that in mind with him. Next up, the wide receivers. The first wide receiver off the board on day 2 was Jonathan Mingo. And I just don't get it with Mingo, man. Like his production profile is not good. You watch his tape and he just leaves a ton to be desired. So I could be wrong on Mingo, but he's walking into a perfect situation. Like they have their quarterback of the future, Bryce Young, and they're teaming him up because the wide receivers there just aren't good. Like, you know what I'm saying? We got guys that are just have not proven anything, like Laviska, or they brought in Thielen. Thielen's old. You got Shaz Smith, you got Terrace Marshall, but really that's just nothing special wide receiver room. So if Mingo is good, he's going to get a shot because he gets the day 2 draft capital. And this is early day 2 draft capital. He went early in the second. He went pick 39 overall. So that's like, hey, guess what? We believe in this guy. So if you believe in Mingo, he's going to get steamed up to an early second round pick. I saw he was around like the 203, and that's realistically where he's going to be. I'll probably have him later just because I'm not big on Mingo. Like, it's just I don't see with him. But he fell in the perfect situation. So if you believe in the talent, that's the ideal situation for a wide receiver to go into because there's no one really holding him back. So could be wheels up. Next up, the sleeper pick, Jaden Reed. Ooh, getting Green Bay, and that's so nice. That's a good pick. I love that pick from Green Bay. Jaden Reed is a nice wide receiver. So yeah, the earliest breakout in the class, he was at Western Michigan. He was very good. I think he's like 18 years old, 3 months is when his breakout happened. And then he was just continually good. And then he went to freaking Michigan State and showed like, hey, guess what? I'm a good wide receiver. He's a little bit older, but I'm not too worried about that. He did what you want. And Green Bay's in on him. So honestly, I'm in on him too. Because it's Christian Watson. And then it's like, you got Romeo Doubs. He was just kind of he had an early like he hit early last year, then he just kind of fell off. And there's not much in that wide receiver room. Now, the running back room, who they have, Aaron Jones, and they have AJ Dillon. Tight ends, they added 2 tight ends to yesterday. I don't understand why they did that, but there's really not much standing in his way besides Christian Watson. So him and Christian Watson could be a fun duo moving forward in that offense with Jordan Love. And you're giving Jordan Love lots of darts, like to be a good quarterback. So they're investing in him, and you like to see it. So that's a nice spot for Jaden Reed. Next up, we have Rashee Rice going to Kansas City. And my goodness, does Kansas City have a type? Like, they're going to put Rice in that deep threat role where he's going to stretch and match Mahomes down top. They've loved these guys because Rice is fast. He's bigger. Like, he's going to fill that role. He's going to stretch the seams. Oh, it's fun. I'm like, if he's going to get steamed up because it's Kansas City, but honestly, I just don't see it with Rice. So he's going to be a late second round pick just because he has draft capital and it's the perfect situation. People will probably get over their skis out in front of him, but you never know. Like, there's guys on round 3 I would much rather, like, who I'll talk about in a second, who I'd much rather target. But yeah, it's the perfect spot. Like, you're playing with Patrick Mahomes, right? So if you're a good wide receiver, you can handle it, then that's wheels up, right? So keep that in mind with Rashee Rice. He's going to be an interesting name to watch to see how his ADP and where it settles. But the Kansas City, like, I saw someone posted their receiving core and their tight ends and their running backs. And outside Kelsey, it's just like, that is not a good group of skill players, right? Like, Kadarius Toney's fun. And Sky Moore has shown us absolutely nothing, right? You have Isaiah Pacheco, who's a non-existent pass catcher. He's basically the juggernaut. So they have guys, but man, there's a lot of question marks. So it makes sense for Kansas City to take a dart and see if Rice is better than what they have, because realistically, he could be. He absolutely could be. But you're just giving Mahomes more weapons. So that's the 101 in Superflex. Patrick Mahomes, he's got the weapons at least. And we'll see who steps up outside of Kelsey. I'm realistically not sure. My bet would be Tony, but the guy can't stay healthy. So keep Rice in mind. I'll have him as a like 210 range, probably there for me. Next up, Marvin Mims. He's the last pick of the second round. He goes to Denver, and yeah, that sucks for KJ Hamler. Like Hamler's gonna be donezoed. So this is just what happens sometimes. Like guys get injured and they can't stay healthy. Teams can't count on them. So Mims is getting a shot and going to what could be a good offense. We just don't know. They're getting Sean Payton, so this is definitely a Sean Payton pick. So keep that in mind. I know we have Tim Patrick, who everybody's kind of talking about as a throw wide receiver. He's 29 years old. He's not young. Sutton's he's getting a little bit older, but he was solid. He had like a 20% target share. And then there's Jerry Jeudy. So there are a lot of guys in the offense. And then you have Greg Dulcich. I just don't see the world where Marvin Mims comes in. And he had a really good production profile. It was one of the better ones in the class. Just he never truly had that elite season. So it's interesting, but I'd much rather target other guys where I see them having a shot at actually being an impact fantasy wide receiver. I just don't see it for Mims. It was better for the NFL situation and the team than it is fantasy, in my opinion. So Mims his profile is good enough where early third, I'll take the flyer on him. But outside of that, I'm just not that interested. So the next pick, the shortest man in history of combine, Tank Dell, went 306 to Houston. And yeah, Houston needed bodies. They had the Ghost Robert Woods. You have the other guys, and you have Dalton Schultz, who's their most reliable guy. But you have John Mechie coming back. It's he was a second round pick last year. He could be good. We just don't know with Mechie, right? And Tank Bell tells he dominated the Senior Bowl, so he got steamed up and third round capital or third round capital. It's not bad, and it's an open situation, right? You're giving Stroud another weapon, so I'm all for that. I'm not going to be I just don't want to bet on Dell. He's just so small. He's a serious outlier. He's tiny. He's 5'6". This is my height. I'm 5'6", and he's 160 pounds. Unless you're Hollywood Brown or Devonta Smith, where you're these true freak shows and you're actually difference makers, I don't see how this is gonna happen for Dell. He could have some fun plays and splash plays just because his profile allows it, but it's so hard to project those guys that are that short. So do what you want with Dell. He'll probably be an early third round pick, but realistically, I'm not going to take him an early third round pick. I'm just going to let other people draft him around there. Next up, Jalen Hyatt walks into just a perfect situation. He's going to be able to stretch the seams with Danny Dimes, who a couple years ago was one of the most accurate passers downfield. Last year, he kind of regressed that area, but he needs someone that's going to stretch the seam because Kenny Galladay, see you later. That didn't work out. So Hyatt's going to step into that role, and he's going to be a boom bust fantasy option. And realistically, outside of Wandale, there's just a bunch of slot dudes. So they finally got themselves someone who can stretch the field, and his speed is truly different. Hyatt has game breaking speed. I know he ran a 4.40, but man, the guy plays much faster than that. Go watch his tape at Tennessee. The guy was just lights up. If he gets a step on you, he's gone. So he's basically, the way you look at him is he's a worse Will Fuller, right? Where he's true difference maker. You just got to give him the ball, hit him deep, see what works out. I mean, I'd much rather take a gamble on Hyatt in the Giants than I would Dell in Houston or Mims in Denver, just because, that speed's tempting as heck. I'm not super big on it actually working out for him, but, let's keep in mind, he has a shot to actually step in day one and earn a role right off the gate. So focus on that. Next up, we get Cedric Tillman. He went to the 311 to Cleveland, and yeah, cool, I guess. It's fun offense to be a part of. So that's what you want guys to get into, right? With Deshaun Watson. It really depends on if Deshaun Watson's back to his old self or he was who we saw last year. If he's who we saw last year, probably not going to work out too well for Tillman because it's just not that good. But realistically, there's Elijah Moore. You have David Njoku and Amari Cooper all going to see targets in front of him, right? And then you get into Donovan Peoples-Jones. You have these other guys in the offense. It's just where's it going to work out for Tillman? I know people were kind of bullish on him. I had him as my wide receiver 12 pre-draft, but I was just there's things you like, but nothing that really separates him for me. So he's a bigger body guy. He has that going for him. But we'll just see. I don't know what his role is exactly going to be in Cleveland. I'm expecting special teams work, and we'll see. If you want to draft him, he'll be the mid-third round pick. He's fine, I guess. It's just not for me. This is where it gets interesting in rookie drafts. You see people that were just like, oh, the rookie draft is so terrible now. It's like, no, it's fine. Like we don't have a lot of high end assets. We just have a lot of guys in murky situations. Enter Cedric Tillman in Cleveland, another murky situation. Now, next up, we had Josh Downs. Finally went. He's the slot, little young, small slot guy who production profile was off the charts. He was my wide receiver 5 going in, and he goes to the 3rd round, pick 16 in Indianapolis, and that is just fun. There's a lot of fun there. Like why it's more intriguing than say it's Tillman is, first off, I liked him a lot more. Second off, there's not that many guys in his way. I mean, you have Michael Pittman. He's the alpha. You have Alec Pierce. And the tight ends are just a motley crew of Mo Alley Cox, Jelani Woods, Kylan Granson. It's kind of whatever, right? And you're giving Anthony Richardson another weapon. So he's going to be the intermediate guy for Anthony Richardson. Like, that's just lock that in, because that's what Downs will do. So he's going to be fun slot guy for them. I'm much more confident in him than I am, say, Tillman and even or Hyatt or Dell or any of those guys. Downs is going to be mid to late 2nd round pick for me. And if he's there, I'll smash him just because he's what we hoped David Bell would be. Like, David Bell had a really good production profile. Went to the 3rd round last year to Cleveland, right? Pour one out for David Bell because he's donezoed. Like, Cedric Tillman just taking him off the field. Like, I'm not even. Yeah, David Bell was atrocious as a rookie. So sometimes that's what happens. They just fall out. So realistically, I'm hoping Josh Downs is the good version of the 3rd round rookie that with a really good production profile that actually hits this year. That's what we're expecting with Josh Downs. Now, he's still a 3rd round pick. It's not like he's going to immediately see the field, get all the snaps. No, he's got to earn it. Like, that's what 3rd round picks have to do. The team believes in you, but you still have to show you're good. So if Josh Downs is a good wide receiver, which his profile tells us, then he can step in and be the slot guy for them on that offense. And it could be a lot of fun. So keep in mind and pay attention to Josh Downs and see where his ADP settles. I really like it. The next guy who I actually really like the pick Arizona made. Arizona had a great day. They've had a great 2 days. They only took premium position talents. They took offensive tackle 1st round. They took a defensive end in the 2nd round. They took a cornerback in the 3rd round, and they also took wide receiver. Those are impact positions. And they also stockpiled a bunch of future picks this year. Like, they have a couple coming up, and they stockpiled the 2024 draft. It's looking very good for Arizona. That's like, you just got to give it up for Arizona what they did. They targeted a wide receiver who's a little bit under the radar, but Michael Wilson, I liked what I saw out of Michael Wilson. I had him at wide receiver 14 just because I didn't think he was going to get draft capital. If he got day 2 draft capital, I said I'm bumping him up. I'm going to bump him up. He's probably going to be my wide receiver 7 in the class, 7, 8 in that range. So he's going to get a drastic bump. But I like what I see. And he's stepping in a situation, especially if it's Hollywood, and then you got like Rondale Moore and just not much else, right? This is with the anticipation that DeAndre Hopkins gets traded. And if he is traded, it's wheels up for Michael Wilson. So pay attention to Wilson. Take a flyer on him in the 4th or the late 3rd. Like, you'll probably like the return you get out of him. And we'll see. If Hopkins gets traded, his ADP is going to skyrocket. So if you're doing your drafts now, you want to target him. And then if Hopkins traded, boop, trade up. And then you can trade him off of that cachet or keep him and enjoy some production, see what happens. The last guy, Vegas, they took Trey Tucker. In the late 3rd, like the 100th pick, I don't know what Vegas is doing. Like, Trey Tucker's Trey Tucker. You're probably gonna have a better shot elsewhere. So I'm not trying to clown Trey Tucker, but he's just not my cup of tea. So we'll see. But I think you're better off. He's going to be a 4th round pick in rookie drafts. Do with that what you will. If you want to take the flyer on him in Vegas, if you believe in him stepping in and helping out Jimmy G in that offense. But it's a crowded room, man. They got bodies. Like, they have Jacoby Myers there. They have Hunter Renfrow. They have Devontae Adams. Like, where's he going to fit in? And maybe they want him to stretch the field. Do that. And I can see him stepping in, playing the role. But he's a late 3rd round pick. So, it takes a little while. If the difference is with these guys, late 3rd round picks to NFL, realistically, like, you have to believe in the profile to boost them up. And I much more believe in Michael Wilson than I do Trey Tucker. So that's why Wilson gets a bump up. Tucker really doesn't get the bump up. So if you don't believe in either of these guys, don't really bump them up. just know the third round picks are a little bit riskier. They'll get a shot, but it's not a guaranteed thing, right? Especially the wide receiver position. But you just want them to get on the field, show they can play, and then the team believes in them, and they're in more of a role, and they come on at the end of the year. So that's kind of what it is. So now let's go to our tight ends. Great day for tight ends. Like, I'll just say this right now. This tight end class lived up to what we hoped it would be. So this tight end class is really carrying the weight of it. Like, in premium leagues, they're going to go early. They're going to go often. A lot of them fell into really good spots. So let's start out. Sam Laporta, who has this quite possibly the second best receiving profile in the class behind Dalton Kincaid. Well, actually third behind Mayer, because Mayer's really good, which that's brain fart my fault. But so he's got third best production profile. Laporta's been really good. Like, he's earned targets. It's just the Hawkeyes, their offense was atrocious. It was Laporta, it wasn't much else, and it was gross. Like, if you watch Iowa football, you feel like you're watching 1950s college football, where it's just not entertaining at all to watch. Laporta dominated targets. He dominated them often. He had like a ridiculous portion of the target. I think it was 30-some% in senior year. Like, the dude he's dominators off the charts. So he's a little bit smaller, but I'm not too worried about that. Detroit got rid of TJ Hawkinson, and they're bringing in Laporta. He can more stretch the seam a little bit than, say, like a Hawkinson could, because Hawkinson was more middle of the field. So I love this landing spot for Goff. Like, Laporta can connect with him. Laporta's just got to get on the field and stay healthy. So if he's on early, like, keep in mind, Laporta's going to be in early second round picks. And in premium leagues, like, he might get pushed up. In non-tight ends, premium, like, he'll probably be mid just because of super flex. 1 QB, he'll be early. But he's going to be about 204-ish for me. And so keep that in mind, but it's an ideal landing spot. Next up, the slide of Michael Mayer stops. We thought he was going to be a first-round tight end, but he still went early second. Like, that's not bad at all. He lands in Vegas, and they desperately needed a tight end. So who do they take? The most pro-ready tight end out of the gate. He's going to see snaps. He's going to see targets. Like, this is the difference between him and Trey Tucker. Mayer is quite possibly the most ready and the best tight end in the class. So guess what? He steps on the field day one. Like, he's going to play. He plays at a position that also needs the talent. So that's the difference. And he got the early capital. So yeah, those top 3 tight ends, like, just lock them in. If you're happy with it, like, that's good stuff. Next up, my boy out of Oregon State, Luke Musgrave, went with a 211 to Green Bay. And I was hyped for it. I was like, yes, Musgrave, let's go. What you're doing, you're giving Jordan Love another passing weapon, right? And he's the prototypical tight end with the build. He has the athleticism. He's got the size. And like, he doesn't have the production profile because he's dealt with injuries his whole career. But he's the guy, if you want to project and you're betting on projection, he's the guy to bet. So the issue with it, though, is Green Bay in the third round took Tucker Kraft, one of the most athletic tight ends in this class as well. So they took Kraft, who had to transfer to North Dakota State, and then he saw all that work and finally dominated because he was at Penn State. So yeah, I'm not as high on Musgrave anymore. Like, Musgrave's going to be a late second. Like, it's just, now you have 2 tight ends. Like, he has the upper edge, and he got drafted a full round earlier, but I don't know why Green Bay went double dip tight end. Like, unless they're trying to play bully tight end or something. It's interesting. So just pay attention to him. Keep in mind, it's probably going to take him a while before he gets going. He also dealt with a ton of injuries. So yeah, I was hyped, and then they took Tucker Kraft, and I'm just like, why? What are you doing? But hey, for Green Bay's perspective, I guess they realized, like, let's get 2 tight ends and see who wins it out. So yeah, interesting for him. The next guy, Luke Schoonmaker, he's out of Michigan, and Dallas just kept taking these guys out of Michigan. It's pretty funny because we had the Eagles taking all the Georgia Bulldogs, and the Cowboys are taking all of the Michigan Wolverines. So yeah, they must be in touch with Harbaugh, because yeah, that's earlier than I thought anybody thought Schoonmaker was going to go. Like, he was a lot of people's like tight end 10 in the class. I was just, yeah, I think, I'm not sure exactly what I had him. I think it might have been tight end 10. Let me double check. Schoonmaker. Yeah, I had him tight end 10 exactly. So yeah, it's pretty funny, right? Right where I had him. That's kind of where the community had him. But yeah, it's an ideal fit. And we saw how Dallas attacks their tight ends. Like, they love their tight ends, right? So keep that in mind. Like, he's walking into a tight end room that really there's just not much there. It's like Peyton Hendershot. It's like Peyton Hendershot ain't nothing. So I wouldn't worry about it. If you like him, absolutely bet on him. He's going to be like a third round pick. It's just, I'm not 100% in on him, but it's an ideal landing spot for any tight end to go to. We saw with Dak how he loves it. So keep Shoemaker in mind. He could be a surprise of the draft and actually hit because he's going to get a shot day one. Next up, Brendan Strange went to Jacksonville, and that is what I consider a 2024 pick, right? This is what people were hyped about Hunter Long in Miami once Gesicki left. What happened? Hunter Long got traded, didn't work out. So Brendan Strange, he's just kind of stuck. Like he's not gonna earn targets. He's a more of like a blocking tight end. Like he can kind of do a little bit of everything. So I don't see much fantasy upside, especially with Evan Ingram there. But even with Evan, like once Evan Ingram leaves, it's gonna be hard for him in that offense to earn a lot of targets. So not super excited, but it's a good offense. And maybe he could develop into a tight end that's highly efficient and catches touchdowns for you. So premium leagues, sure. But outside of premium leagues, I don't want to spend that draft capital on him. I'd rather just trade it for a veteran than I would, like, say, a late second or a third. Realistically, in non-tight end premium leagues, he's going to go like the fourth, fifth round. Like, people aren't going to be that excited about him. Next up, Tucker Kraft. He was something the community was a big fan of. And yeah, like he's big dude. He's athletic freak show. Finally produced at a small college. And the problem is he lands with Musgrave. So that kind of sucks. But I'm just going to bet on the guy with more draft capital when you're torn between the two. Because realistically, they were in the same range for a lot of people as it was. So if you believe in Kraft, you can get him at a discount compared to Musgrave. So keep that in mind when you're going on these guys. But he still got third round draft capital. Like, that's pretty good. And one of them will end up earning the role. We don't know who it's going to be. It's going to be a fun competition between the two. So if you like him more than Musgrave, yeah, go take him. You can get him in the third, no problem. So keep that in mind. It's open. So he could be something. Next up, pour one out for Darnell Washington. He goes to Pittsburgh, and yeah, they have Pat Freiermuth. He's a good young tight end. So this screams blocker. Like this screams they're actually going to turn him into a tackle or try to get him to help with passing and just help the offense, right? Because their offense line is not very good. So they need more bodies. And Darnell Washington's a mountain of a man. He's an athletic freak show, but we heard NFL teams talking about he projects more to a tight end. And with that pick in the third round, that's what they're telling us because he's not going to play over Pat Freiermuth. Freiermuth is a very good tight end. So yeah, that's just, I'm not interested. He's not even going to be on my board. I don't even want to touch him. Even in premium leagues, like just let other people go for him because I don't see a scenario how he's walking in targets or he's going to earn targets because that's something he never did at Georgia, right? And yeah, he played with the best tight end in college football in Brock Bowers, but it's going to be tough. And sometimes this is what happens. Guys, like they die for fantasy on draft day. He can still be a good NFL talent. Like we've seen tight ends transition to tackles. The Seahawks did it with George Fant. There's other guys where over the course of a few years, like they become linemen. So don't give out hope. He can still be a good pro. It's just for fantasy, no thanks. And then the last tight end taken was Cameron Latu. He goes to San Francisco in the third round, late in the third round. I mean, they got George Kittle. This is just depth. You know how they value the position. So I don't expect anything to happen from Cameron Latu. He's not going to be on my board either. Like even in premium leagues, sure, fifth round, yeah, you throw a dart, maybe something happens. Maybe there's injury to Kittle because he has had injuries over the years. Latu steps in, earns role, but unless the tight end is good and he has a good profile and they're able to be schemed touches, like it's tough. Like you can't just walk into targets as a tight end. You have to earn them. And with San Francisco's scheme, it is quite complex. So he's going to have to learn that offense too. So it's going to be a slow development for the two. We'll see what happens, but I'm just not that interested. But, well, to recap, on day 2, for the quarterbacks, we had Will Levis going to Tennessee, early second. Hendon Hooker went to Detroit, early third. The running backs, Zach Charbonnet, goes to my Seattle Seahawks. Mid-second, I can't stand that one. Kendre Miller goes to New Orleans, early third. Tajay Spears goes to the Tennessee Titans, mid-third. Devin Achane goes to the Miami Dolphins, late third. Tank Bigsby, Jacksonville Jaguars, late third. For the wide receivers, Jonathan Mingo goes early second to the Carolina Panthers. Jaden Reed goes to the Green Bay Packers, mid-second. Rashee Rice goes to the Kansas City Chiefs in the late second. Marvin Mims goes to the Denver Broncos, the late second. Tank Dell goes to Houston, early third. Jalen Hyatt goes to the New York Giants, early third. Setter Tillman goes to the Cleveland Browns, mid third. Josh Downs, mid third, Indianapolis. Michael Wilson, late third, Arizona. And Trey Tucker, late third, Arizona. For the tight ends, Sam Laporta goes to Detroit, early second. Michael Mayer goes to the Raiders, early second. Luke Musgrave, Green Bay Packers, or mid second. Luke Schoonmaker, Dallas Cowboys, late second. Brenton Strange goes to the Jacksonville Jaguars, late second. Tucker Kraft, I don't understand why Green Bay did that. He goes to the Green Bay Packers, mid third. Darnell Washington, late third to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And Cameron Latou goes to the San Francisco 49ers in the late third. That is your day 2 draft recap. Thank you for stopping in. I am your host, Jesse Moeller, aka J Moeller05. You can find me all over. Twitter is my favorite platform to tweet out my rantings, aka why this is called the Rantings of a Fantasy Football Fanatic. Take care, folks. We will see you later on this week. Talk about day 3.
Have you ever felt? Are you listening? Damn.